Thea Stilton and the Mystery in Paris. A rose for Thea. It was one of those hot spring mornings when you can tell summer's about to begin. I was out on my balcony, watering my flowers and enjoying the sun. My garden was blooming beautifully. I have quite the green paw, if I do say so myself. Oh, I almost forgot to introduce myself. My name is Thea Stilton. My brother is Geronimo Stilton, the famous publisher of Rodin's Gazette. I am a special correspondent for this newspaper. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a delivery truck stopping on the street outside my building. A moment later, ding dong, ding dong. The doorbell started to ring. Is anyone home? Someone shouted shrilly. Open up. I can't wait here all day. It was the unmistakable squeak of Mercury Vale Mouseford Academy's male mouse. Mouseford is a famous school on Butte Island. I studied there as a mouseling and had recently worked there as a visiting professor. I scurried to open the door, but when I flung it open, instead of Mercury, I saw a splendid bunch of roses. Where should I put it? Came a muffled squeak from inside the rose bush. Hello, I'm getting pricked by thorns here. Where should I put it? I noticed that the bush had two skinny legs sticking out from under it. I could barely see the tip of Mercury's snout peeking out between the flowers. Come in, Mercury, I said, opening the door wide. Right this way. I led him out to the balcony. There was an empty corner that was just perfect for the wonderful rose bush. But who was it from? Before I had a chance to ask Mercury, he was scampering off to catch the ferry back to Butte Island. He was out the door faster than a hungry cat at feeding time. It was then that I noticed a yellow card sticking out of the bush. Sweets for the sweet, roses for our beloved Thea, XOXO, the Thea sisters. What kind mouselings, I exclaimed. The bush was a gift from my favorite students, 5 mouselings I had gotten to know at Mouseford when I had returned to teach there. They had excelled in my course on investigative journalism and had even helped me solve a mystery. They decided to name themselves after me, the Thea sisters. I turned the card over to see if there was anything written on the back, and I found this message. Check your email. We've sent you the story and photos from our latest adventure in Paris. I hurried over to my laptop and turned it on. Sure enough, there was a long, juicy email from Colette, Nikki, Pamela, Paulina, and Violet. So I made myself comfortable in my lawn chair, propped up my laptop on my knees, and began to read. The 5 mouselings' latest adventure had started over school break. As I read the first paragraph, I knew that I had found the perfect story for a new book. The title, The Mystery in Paris. Vacation. Spring had arrived at Mouseford Academy. The air was warm and fragrant, blowing the scent of flowers and freshly cut grass into the classrooms. Spring fever had broken out across campus. The students had a 2-week vacation, and the air was abuzz with excitement. The Thea sisters, Colette, Nikki, Pamela, Paulina, and Violet, had their bags packed and plane tickets ready. For once, they weren't leaving to solve a mystery somewhere in the world. They were going on a nice, long vacation to Paris. Colette was their host. She was famous for overpacking, but this time, she was the only one without luggage. She carried a heart-shaped purse and nothing else. Why? Because the mouselings were headed straight for her house and she was looking forward to visiting her overflowing closets. And Colette was determined to head out on a shopping marathon once they arrived in Paris. The stairway of the academy's dorm was filled with happy squeaking. The students were chatting about their vacations. Even Octavius de Mouseford, the headmaster, was beaming. He said goodbye to his students with a broad smile. Enjoy your vacation. The Butte Island port was crowded. Everyone was boarding the ferry bound for Mouse Islands, including the Thea sisters. As the ferry was sailing off, Mercury Whale and his brothers broke into a verse of Whale Island's traditional farewell song, Hymn for a Happy Return. May your journey be a breeze, rich with smiles and rich with cheese. May your return be filled with delight. We'll await your arrival day and night. When you return, we'll all eat cheesecake, but don't forget to bring us a keepsake. Paris is beautiful in the spring. As Whale Island gradually became smaller and smaller on the horizon, the 5 mouselings felt their excitement grow and grow. Pamela, Nikki, and Paulina had never been to Paris and were longing to see it. Violet had been there as a mouseling with her parents, and it had stayed in her heart. Going back with her closest friends was a dream come true. As for Colette, Paris was her city. She couldn't wait to play tour guide for her friends. When they reached Mouse Island, the 5 friends made their way to the airport. After check-in, they got a snack at the cafe and waited cheerfully for their flight to be called. It was so nice not to be rushing around. For once, there was no anxiety, no worrying. For the first time ever, the Thea sisters were enjoying a totally relaxing trip together. That is, an almost totally relaxing trip. As soon as the plane took off, it hit a fierce storm and the plane began to bounce up and down. I feel like I'm riding on the back of a kangaroo, cried Nikki, who was from Australia. Pam nodded, but not in a good way. It's okay, just stay calm. Find a happy place, find a happy place, find a happy place, Colette repeated to herself. She had turned as pale as a slice of mozzarella. Are you okay, Colette? Asked Violet. No, I'm not okay. Nothing is okay, Colette burst out. She was on the verge of tears. I don't have an umbrella. All my clothes will get wet, my hair will frizz from the humidity, and Paris will seem so ugly in the rain. Violet smiled and hugged her friend. After some shampoo, your hair will be gorgeous, and after the rain, Paris will be more beautiful than ever. As it turned out, Violet was 100% correct in her prediction. Just as the plane began to descend, the clouds broke and the sun shone like a spotlight on the city. The rows of buildings seemed to sparkle from the rain, and a beautiful rainbow framed the whole scene. Amazing, exclaimed Pamela. Her eyes were glued to the city that stretched out before them. Now that's what I call a welcome sign, cried Paulina, pointing to the rainbow. It's fabulous, cried Nikki. Colette smiled happily. You see, Paris is just like me. It loves making a dramatic entrance. At the top of the City of Light, Colette guided the mouselings from Paris Orly Airport to the center of the city. First, they boarded a bus, which took them to the subway station of Donvier-Rochefort. Then they went down to the metro, that is, the subway, and crossed the entire downtown area of Paris, arriving at Place des Abbesses. As they climbed the stairs of the metro and peeked out into the luminous open square, the mouselings were a little disoriented, but Colette didn't give them a minute to get their bearings. Backpacks on, mouselings, let's go. Move those tails, she instructed her friends with a smile. Colette's parents didn't live in Paris. In fact, Colette had grown up in the town of Auz in Provence, but when Colette was in high school, she and her older sister Julie moved to Paris together while Colette's parents were traveling. Julie and Colette shared a small apartment. That was where the Thea sisters would be living it up, Colette's words, during their vacation. The mouselings scampered up a very narrow, very steep road. Then they climbed a stairway, and then another, and another still. Where are you taking us? To the top of the Himalayas? Pamela asked, panting. We are at the Butte Montmartre, explained Colette. In French, Butte means hill. It is the highest point in all of Paris. The mouselings spotted the white dome of the Sacré-Cœur Basilica high above them. At last, they arrived at Colette's building. It was tall and narrow, with an old-fashioned feel to it. On the top floor, there was a balcony filled with multicolored roses. Colette shouted a clear squeak above their heads. It was Julie. She was waving her paws so they would see her. Her blonde bobbed hair peeped between the roses. Inside the building, another steep staircase awaited the Mouselings. Colette's apartment was on the top floor. Julie, dress Julie. Colette opened the door to the apartment and ushered her friends in. Julie ran to greet them. Welcome, she squeezed Colette tightly in her arms and rushed to grab Paulina's bag. Did you have a good trip? You must be exhausted, poor things, and hungry too. The cheese on those airplanes is always moldy. You must be starving. Julie spoke very quickly. She was a small mouse, but she seemed to have boundless energy. She kissed each mouseling on the cheek, then led them into the living room. Pamela, Violet, Nikki, and Paulina were too exhausted to be polite. They collapsed onto two comfy couches, sighing with relief. Julie and Colette disappeared into the kitchen and came back a few moments later with a tray of cold drinks and cheese and crackers. Snacks? Juice? Julie offered. Don't be shy. Have something to eat. Then you can rest. Please make yourselves at home. Colette and I will prepare lunch. The apartment was very comfortable and full of light. There wasn't much furniture, but there were a lot of pictures and a wonderful arrangement of roses at the center of the table. This place is lovely, said Pam. I would never have imagined that a modern apartment like this would be inside such an old building, commented Paulina. My grandmother always says that appearances can be deceiving, said Violet, and this is proof that old proverbs are always right. Colette peeked out of the kitchen. Do you think you can make it up another flight of stairs? She asked teasingly. With that, she pushed the button on the wall. A panel on the ceiling, which no one had noticed before, slid open silently. A wooden stairway unfolded down toward them. Whoa! Exclaimed Nikki in admiration. What other tricks do you have in this place? No more tricks, answered Colette, inviting them to climb up. My room is up here. The folding staircase makes the rooms much more spacious. What a wonderful discovery, said Paulina as she started up the stairs. She was very curious. I bet the room is painted pink, she thought. When she emerged at the top, Paulina was squeakless. Nikki, Pam, and Violet, who had followed her, were too. Well, don't you have anything to say? Asked Colette. We are breathless, sighed Pamela. And not just because of the stairs, Nikki said, laughing. Colette's room was enchanting. It had once been an attic, and it had a sloping ceiling and exposed ceiling beams. The wallpaper was pale pink with fuchsia stripes. The canopy bed had light curtains that were a little brighter than the walls. The blanket that covered the bed was dark blue with tiny pink designs. But the really extraordinary thing was the view from the window, a sea of roofs and chimneys as far as the eye could see, and above them all was a dome of Sacré-Cœur. From above, Paris was even more magical.